Hey guys, how's it going? It's Francisco again. So I posted a little video in TikTok saying that I was going to show you guys how to create a VueJS application, which is essentially a Pomodoro timer. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how it works right now. It's still a work in progress, but for the most part, we got most of what we need to get it up and running. So the timer starts, it starts at 25. You can reset it. You can increase the time, you can decrease the time, so you can kind of set your timer. And what this is going to do is going to help us code and at the same time also help us develop healthy habits. So we kind of stick with something and we continue coding. So that's the whole idea, is to kind of get us in a place where we're setting time aside and dedicating that time to just work on stuff. Okay, so let's get started. So what you need to create this application is you need Node.js. So you need Node.js. If you just Google search Node.js, you can install it. I'm not going to go through the whole installation process, so you guys are going to have to do your homework and do this. So go ahead and once I get done with all the packages that you need, go ahead and pause. All right, so you're also going to need you're going to need the Vue CLI. So if you just click on here, the first one, Vue CLI, it'll just kind of show you how to get started. And so with the Node.js, you just got to download some stuff and get it up and going. All right, so that's pretty much all that we will need to get started. So essentially, you do need to open up a folder that you want to work on. I have a little workspace folder here, and I have a folder named test. And within this folder, I made one called Vue Pomodoro, but actually I don't need Vue Pomodoro because the Vue CLI is gonna create its own folder. So once you install your Vue CLI, you just create Vue create my project. You don't do Vue UI because that gives you like a little a UI that you really don't need. You just really need the CLI. So we'll do Vue create, and I'm gonna call it Pom app. And it might take a while. Yeah, there we go. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use Vue 2 because Vue 3 is still in preview. And it's gonna initialize everything. Just give it a moment. And it does take a while, so I'm probably going to pause this, and then once it's all done, I'll come back and let you guys know what happened. Okay, so I had this issue where for some reason I stopped recording, so now I'm going to do this all over again. So essentially, we stopped at the place where we have our Vue application downloaded. So what we're going to do is we're going to CD into our Vue app, and then we're going to start Visual Code. Okay, cool. So if we start Visual Studio Code in our application, we can see that we have this application pretty much laid out for us. And what the application instructions said was to start the server. And if we do npm run serve, we can start our application environment, or development environment, sorry. So with this, we can pretty much start developing and get up and running. So I started it up, and I want to show you the main.js file, which is our main file, which is pretty much importing Vue, and it's declaring Vue. And then we have app Vue, which is our main Vue component. And the way that Vue works is that you have all these components that you piece together, and you kind of modularize your application, and you have a very reactive application, and which means is like everything is updated real time. So if I'll just go ahead and refresh that. Cool. So all this is updated in real time. And if I were to come up to our, nope, I don't want to move anything. Our hello world component, you can see that we have a props. This is what it's called. And it's right here. It's our props, and it's defined as message, and it's expecting a string. So if we go back over here, we can see that our component is accepting a message. We're feeding message into this. And if I change this over to CodeWithCisco.com, learn to code, and I save it. And if I show you you can see that it updated it. So that's pretty cool. Unfortunately, this is not a component that we're going to use, so we're going to go ahead and remove it. So let's go ahead and remove it. If I remove it, you'll see that I have a warning that it's not being used. And I'm actually going to delete this. So we're going to fix this by number 1, deleting the component. Yep, and we want to delete this. We want to remove it from here and remove it from the components as well. We're not going to use this, and we should be fine. Okay, cool. All right, so now I'm going to go back to my Vue component, and all I have is this Vue logo. We don't need this as well, so we're going to go ahead and remove it. And as you can see, we have real-time updates. Ah, cool, it's gone. So we're going to create our own component now, but before we do that, I will Control-C out of this. Yep, we want to cancel the development server, because what we want to do is we want to import something new to our package. If you can see package.json, we have a lot of cool stuff. We have the name of our application, the version, scripts, server, build, initialize. So essentially these are all scripts. If you remember, the npm run serve starts our Vue CLI service, which pretty much shoots up and fires up our development server. And these are our dependencies, and these are development dependencies that we have specifically for our development environment. So it's pretty bare. We just have Vue and Core.js dependencies right now because we're running a very simple application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import Viewsacks, which is a really cool framework that pretty much gives us some predefined mod components. And if we just go to viewsacks.com or just Google Viewsacks, and you'll see this. We're using the version 4, which is a little bit early. If you go here, this is probably going to be the first thing that you see, and you want to go to Viewsacks 4. I just kind of like this framework a little bit better. It looks cool. I think it's a little bit more mobile friendly, but I want to get started, and I don't want to go too deep into this. So getting started. And if we want to use this, we got to do an npm install. So as you can see, it is calling for npm install Viewsacks next. And I'm going to copy this. And you can use yarn as well, but we're going to use npm for this. And we're going to save --save. Now what --save does is, if you look, it's going to go through the install process. And as you can see, dependencies here, it's pretty much going to add an additional dependency for Viewsacks at next. And essentially what this does is, if you were to upload this on Git, and for some reason you were to download it on a Mac machine, and if I'm using a Windows and you download it on a Mac machine, if you were to, obviously you're going to remove your node modules, and you're just going to do this bare components that you need. The package.json, if you were to run a npm I for install, it would install all your packages and the dependency packages for the Mac environment. So essentially it just kind of gives you a really, really universal deployment package for your application. All right, so we can see that we have the Viewsacks right here, and we're good to go as far as installing the rest of this. So we want to add import that Viewsacks to our main.js. So we'll go ahead and add this right here so we can import Viewsacks. And what we're going to do is we're going to also add this import here. And I think what we can do is we're going to import the style. And the cool thing about Vue CLI is that it will it will allow us to declare an import module for the CSS files. And that's because we have the Webpack configured with the Vue CLI. So if you were to try this on a regular Node application, it wouldn't work because you wouldn't have the Webpack set up unless you set up the Webpack. All right, so and then we're telling Vue to use this. So just a quick overview of what this is the main.js is essentially starting up Vue, the main Vue component, and then this is a main Vue component, and then with here our main Vue component is using the Viewsacks package or modules, I would say. So from here we can actually call for those components that we're going to use, and you can call components individually, as they say, on demand. So you can kind of call them whatever component you're using them. But I like to just kind of universally import them because it's kind of set it and forget it, and you don't really have to worry about when you're calling those. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through all these. You do have like a button here, and I'm going to show you how to use it. So if we save this, let's run our application, npm run serve, and we're going to run npm serve so we can make sure that our main .js file is actually working and we didn't break it when we modified something. Okay, so we do have an error. So Viewsacks is defined but never used. That's weird. Save it. Okay, I guess I didn't save it. All right, so I saved the file. We're good to go. I'm going to look back and everything's good to go. We have a blank screen, but we can easily change that by adding a new component. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new component called timer, and this is where we're going to have our timer. Cool. So the basics of a component is the template, which is your HTML, right? So I'm going to do, you need to encapsulate this with some, like a container tag, like section div or something like that. Footer will even work, header, whatever you want to do. But I'm just going to use section, and of course I'm going to call this timer. All right, so save that, and then I'll do a P, and we'll do CodeWithCisco.com. Cool. If I save this, you're still not going to see anything because, again, I am not calling for this component in my main view, app.view. So in order to call that, I am going to need to go into my script and call in ES6 import, and we'll call this timer. And from, oops, double quotes and back, oops, too many backs. Components and timer, and I'll save this. It's gonna act all funky because I haven't declared I haven't used timer in my component, and I'll do that. Come up here, timer backslash, there we go. All right, so I save it and it fixes it. Keep in mind that timer cannot be spaced. You have to have timer and close to that bracket. It won't, oh, actually won't with divs. I know that some languages are a little bit, they don't really care, but they have to be on the bracket area right here, so they have to be snug. Okay, so if I go back to my application, I can see that, I save it. Okay, so you see CodeWithCisco.com, and you will see that yours is styled. You don't have to put CodeWithCisco.com, you can put whatever, but you can see that it's styled because we are inheriting the styles that we have from the main app, and also we have well, yeah, we don't have styles here. So if you were to change any styles here, you could easily do so, but this is not a CSS class. So that's cool and everything. So we kind of did something, but we want to import one of our Viewsacks components. So if you go over here and we view code, we have this component here, which is a button. And what we're going to do is copy this, and essentially it's a VS button. Up. Thumbs up, right? Because you like this video, right? So I go back and you can see I have a thumbs up right here, and there's a way to change it because essentially this is a block component, so it's not inline, and that's another CSS topic, but here we're not going to discuss CSS, unfortunately. But we have a thumbs up button here, and essentially this is its own component. As you can see, it kind of follows the same thing right here. And it's also taking in props, and we don't really need the isActive prop, and we don't really need this right here. We just really need the basic component. And if we go here, that's cool. So we can also add props like this gradient color property. So if we go into here, you have a gradient right here, and I will add the gradient because we want it to be gradient. And if we go back, we'll see that it's gradient. Cool. There's also another prop that we can add in, which is like a square, and that's what we use. So it's square as well. So I have a square gradient. And also we want to change the color to a different one. So there is a color here, group. Okay. So if we go here on our API, we can see all our different ones. Okay. So we're going to do color here. And we can do usage example right here. And we have an RGB one, which that's the one that I'm going to use. And if we go to color, we'll just kind of pass in an RGB color right here. We'll save it. And you can modify this RGB thing, but I'm not really going to go mess with it too much. You can kind of do that research on your own if you want to. Save it. Okay. So I broke something here. Let's see. We have the square gradient. That's weird. All right, so let's kind of move this here, save it, and we'll see. Okay, this works, but if we give it the color property, it breaks it. All right, let's try this. Oh yeah, because there we go. My bad. All right, so the reason why it wasn't working is because I wasn't passing it as a prop. And if I pass it as a prop, I should refresh, and it breaks everything. Okay, that's not fun. Okay, so if I do Control I, so there's another cool thing that you can get, and it is oh, because I'm using this in private mode, it won't show me, but I'll get to troubleshooting your view. So oh yeah, you don't have to pass it in as a prop, which is really weird because it's just not letting me. Okay, yeah, so sometimes you just kind of give it a little whack. So now you have your custom colored thumbs up button. Cool. As you can see, it's nice and bouncy. Okay, so that's pretty cool, and I want to show you how you work with props on your component. So another thing that you can also add to your component besides the HTML template is you can add script. And we're going to use traditional JavaScript. As you can see, everything has it. The main one, of course, has to have it because we're importing something. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare export default. So I already have it here. And we're going to declare name because we want to name this, and this is going to be called timer, and you have to name it with a string, and then we're going to call for props and message, and we want a string, and we're just going to do a double curly, and we're going to type in message here. And since we're not passing in a message, we're not going to see anything. And let's change this to an H1. Okay, so if we pass in message here and a string, and if we go back here, might have to refresh it. Okay, so what you can do is vmodel this, and so it's vmodel message. Oh man. So message right here, passing it in. No require. Okay, so if I There we go. Cool. Yeah, so I didn't have to declare the V model. All I had to do is just pass in the message, which is kind of weird. I have it set up different in my application, but I'll double check and make sure. We can always check on the documentation on the, so if you go view props, and it should be the first thing on the VueJS. Okay. So it's asking for props right here. It's declaring the props, and here declaring. Okay. So yeah, I guess you don't have to put, okay, so you can put vbind, v-bind here, title. But I guess this is a little bit different because you're actually setting in data here. So if you're just going to pass dummy information like this, you don't have to set up the vbind. And we'll go into more of the details in here later. But essentially what I want to do, what I want you guys to do is on yours, I want you guys to pass in another one here. And we're going to do a sub. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put in, this is my view application, and you don't have to do this is my view application. You can do whatever you want. So it'll look like this right here. So what this is going to do is you're going to essentially pass this in as a prop. So this prop is going to be called subtitle. And I showed you how to pass in a prop. Now you just got to do it yourself. So right now it's blank, and I need you guys to pass in that prop. Okay, so that's going to be your homework. And this is going to cut it for our current module or section, whatever you want to call it. And the next one, we'll learn a little bit more about passing information into components and getting our framework set up to make that timer. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you on the next one.